What's up, class? Hear ye, class has commenced. Let's see. Ooh, we got a first here. Efren. Jasmine's here. What's up? Jose's in the chat. What's going on, Jose? How's everyone doing? Logan's here. What's up, Logan? Ooh, Evan, fourth. Not really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, close-o. Pierre's in the chat. What's up, Pierre? Let's see here. Jose, were you the one, because there's 2 Jose's in classes, in this class. Were you the one that was having issues with the ball showing up like this in your project? Let me know, and we can address it if you're still having an issue. Okay, did you still have an issue with it? I mean, let's be honest, we're all the ones with the issues, right? I've got issues. I think everyone has issues, but specifically the animation issue. Before we get started, I'm going to go over a couple things. Today's going to be a little more chill. First of all, let's address I got the 4D and the animate balls done. I just need the AE ball. Okay. Is it still showing up like that for you? Have you tried, Wonderful Taven mentioned that you have to make sure the file is unzipped, which means you have to extract everything from the zip file before. Okay. Did you do this? When is the next big project? We're starting this week. Probably starting, we're going to start talking about it today. And then we're going to really get into it on Thursday. So every week we're going to have a project. And each project is going to get more and more complex, and we'll be learning different things on each project. And so today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to do, first we're going to start with a review. I'm going to review the participation questions, not go over everyone's answers, but I was just going to talk about it a little bit for you guys because everyone had really good inputs on that question. And then we're going to talk about the next question coming up, and then we're going to touch on the bouncing ball projects. We're going to go over them, and I'm going to give you guys feedback on the bouncing ball projects, and then at least the ones who are submitted right now. And then we're going to start talking about typography, which is going to be this week's project. What's up, Angel? For the ball, I was only about able to do the After Effects one. That's okay. All right, you guys. Jose, we're going to address that issue too today. So let me talk about the issue of the live stream having problems with it. I know last week and the week before we had issues with the live stream. I have checked my internet and I have the appropriate amount of internet that should be working where I shouldn't be having issues. So I'm not sure if it's like a connection issue between YouTube and something that's going on. But my internet's not actually going out during these times. Like we're still able to have internet. And I've called Cox and we're trying to figure out what the issue is. It might just be because of the location of my office versus where the modem is. But I mean, I haven't had this problem last year as often as this one. So I'm trying to mitigate the issue again. If the live stream dumps down, our plans from now on, bomb the Discord chat and be like, hey, it crashed, and then write me the last thing that you guys remember hearing about so that I am aware I have to go back and retouch on some of the things I was talking about. I don't think it's my PC. My PC usually streams everything just fine. I've checked my Wi-Fi component to my PC to see if it needed updating and still no issues around that. So I'm trying to kind of troubleshoot where the problem could be. I'm also contemplating getting someone out here to run an Ethernet cable through my attic down into my office so I can just hard connect to my computer, which would probably be the most efficient thing. It's just finding someone and then the cost of that. So we'll try and figure that out. But in the meantime, if it goes down, because I'm not always looking at this screen, I'm usually focused on the one where I'm doing work. But if it goes down, just bomb Discord for me, or, not everyone has to just be like, it crashed. Here's what you talked about last, so that I'm aware. Okay, so let's kind of get into a couple things. What do I want to close? I'm going to close this one real quick. So that one, we're going to jump into here. This is the last time I'm going to talk about this, because this is, I've mentioned this several times already in the live streams. So those of you who've heard it, understand it, I appreciate that. And this is for the students who might not fully understand it yet, or who need a reminder, because I've had several emails recently about missing the due date. Okay. What's up, Maria? There is a due date range. Okay. The range goes from this day to this day. Okay. So when you open a module and it says it's due by February 5th, but it's available until February 12th, that is your due date range. Unfortunately, Canvas doesn't allow the input of a range. I've already checked. It's such a bummer. I might be contemplating if that's like something we can get changed or integrated into Canvas. I don't know how far my power goes with that kind of stuff, but this is the best that I can do, right? Because I understand that not everyone can get their projects done on that certain day. So if you turn your project in anytime between the due date here and the available date here, it is still okay. You won't be marked off any points. You still are turning it in on time, even if it says, because when you submit something after the due date, Canvas is going to say it's late. But in this case, it is not going to be late, because after the available due date here, so February 13th at midnight, this assignment will be locked. You cannot submit anything after that time, which means then that is when you know it's late. If you go to turn in a project and it won't let you submit it, it is late. That's how you know. Okay. So make sure you're paying attention, you guys, to the due date here and the available date, because if there's a gap between there, then that's a ranged date. If by chance, like for your participation grades, right? If I go to your participation questions and there is a singular date here and not an available due date, available until due this day, this is a hard due date, then you can't turn it in after that. So you have to get it in. If the dates match, then it's due that day specifically. But But that's why I sent out the announcement, because I've had several students writing me asking me about it. And I just like to write everyone back with that is just kind of a pain. So that's why I sent out this announcement. Make sure you read it, make sure you understand it. If you still have questions about what the ranges are, send me a message separately. But as long as you're within the range, so anytime between yesterday and the 12th, which is next Monday at 11:59 p.m., you can turn in your bouncy ball assignment and not be marked down for it. Okay? We're going to go over the ones we have today and do feedback on that. If we have any additional ones on Thursday's class, we might go over them at the end of class. But in the meantime, we're going to go over a majority of them today, the ones that have been submitted. So just want you guys to know. Let's kind of quickly go over your participation question, the second one here that we had. Describe in your own words what an animation reel is and why it's important, also known as an animation portfolio, and how long should they be? What should they contain? What should they not have included? You guys all did a really good job on that. Understanding what an animation reel is. So I've started putting these questions in for a purpose because, as I've talked about in the beginning when class started, we are going to be creating an animation reel for the end of this class. That is what our final project is, right? We do not have a final test in this class. We have a final project, and it's going to be an animation reel. So the earlier you understand what a reel is, the sooner that you'll have the concept of what it is you're going to need to have done at the end of the semester. A lot of you were putting that animation reels should be between 2 and 3 minutes. That's usually true if you have animation reels like for cartoons and things like that. But for this class, right, our animation reel is going to be somewhere between 45 seconds and 1 minute and 30 seconds long. That's okay as well. But you really don't want it more than 1 minute to 2 minutes long, specifically for like the kind of work that we're doing in this class. The other thing that a lot of people mentioned, which was great, is like adding music and not having any kind of audio besides music in it, right? And the music should intertwine itself with the motion that's happening and not just be loud and crazy and chaotic for no reason, right? They work off of each other. The music and what's happening on screen, it flows together. It should be compatible with each other and not just senselessly throwing audio into a reel just because you need music. And so it's a lot of like a thought process that goes into this. And another thing that I saw with you guys writing this, we are going to have a lot of projects in this class, and all of the projects will likely be in your animation reel. So even if it's not the best work that you're going to have in the next couple years, it's just somewhere to start. We're starting you guys off with your animation reels, right? So you're going to be putting those things in there, like this bouncing ball project, and all of your projects moving forward will be in your reel at the moment. And then when you get more work under your belt with different classes and stuff from this program here, you'll be able to put those into your work. But usually animation reels should be updated every year to 2 years. So it should be current works and it should be your best work. And so just kind of think of that moving forward and have this thought in the back of your mind when you're working on your projects in the rest of this class. Okay, but you guys did a really good job on that. And so applause. Slow clap. Slow clap. All right. Let's see here. The participation question this week is going to be, and I might not do this every time, but I thought everyone's answers were really good for this one that was due yesterday. And so I just wanted to say you guys did a good job on that. This one is describe in your own words what creative feedback is and why it is important to the animation process. What things should you consider when giving feedback on other students' animation projects, right? So this is kind of like, think about what it is, maybe look up what creative feedback is. Give me a little definition, why it's so important, maybe what what it entails, right? And then maybe what kind of things you should consider when giving feedback on other students' work. And it doesn't have to be super specific. It can just be generalized on that, right? It doesn't have to be long, just 100 to 200 word responses again. But I just want to mention that all of these participation questions, I'm making them particularly that they somehow pertain to what we're either going to get to later in class or things I want you guys to start thinking about, right? Let's go to, I'm going to click on the bouncing ball project here. And let's go over your guys' projects. Do you guys have any questions about what I was talking about before we start getting into your projects? You guys can ask me any questions. All right. Okay, Jasmine. I know you're in the chat. Can you render this out for me? It should be a rendered. This should be a rendered MP4 and not the project file. Maybe you have the regular. Let me see. Yeah, I don't have it. If, Jasmine, you can render this out for me before I'm done with the rest of these, just send me the rendered video in like a direct message inside of either Canvas or inside of Discord. Let me know in the chat that you've uploaded it, and then I'll give you feedback on it. And if not, I'll try and open this and we'll see what it is. But likely, I'm not going to have the assets with this, which means that things aren't attached with it. We'll talk about that here in a second because we're going to address the issue that Jose had with his project. So let me put these in here first. Let me drop these. Cool. Nice. And let's recreate what maybe happened with Jose's project here. Wrong. There we go. All right. So I still don't know how to render it into a video. You're still having issues. I touched on that the end of last class, how to render it into a video. So I can go over that again quickly here once I'm done addressing the issue that Jose was dealing with. But okay. So Jose has the problem where, let me do this. Let's move this here. Or actually, I know where I'll move it. Here. Okay. Jose's having this problem where when he goes to look at his bouncing ball, let's see. Really now? Should update. Okay. Let me remove the motion blur off of here. And also the tint effect. Let's shut this off. Okay. Jose is seeing this in his project. And what this means, right, is that there's an asset that is no longer, that the project file itself, so After Effects, is no longer able to find. So essentially this, because this is an image, right? This is a PNG right there. This image is lost. The project, After Effects, can't find where this image is. Now, this can occur mostly because the image gets moved. And when you downloaded the template folder from the module here, the bouncy ball module, that image was inside this footage folder, right? Like when you extract the bouncing ball, when you extracted the project, which you should have done, the zip file, right? Right click, extract all into this, your main folder. You would have gotten this AE ball template and this After Effects autosave folder and then this footage folder here. And what this footage folder is it collects all of the outside assets that you might have put into your project, right? When we import things into projects, again, those are called assets. And those can be videos, music, images, anything that we bring from outside of After Effects into After Effects is an asset. And if that asset gets moved, then it unlinks from the project file. Think of it as being linked. There's like communication happening between where that asset is and what's in the folder in your project. And so if that gets moved, all of a sudden After Effects can't find it. Well, how do we fix that? You can either move that asset back into the appropriate folder. So what I would have to do, because I moved it, before we started talking about this, I moved it into my assets and images folder. I moved the bouncy ball here. I could either put this back into that footage folder like this. I could go X, Control X to cut it, go back over here, go into the bouncing ball footage folder and paste it like this. Or what I can do, right, is if I have it moved into my assets images folder, I can create that link again to that image. So if you're over here in your project panel and you're wondering where that missing file is, there's a couple ways you can locate it, right? If you're in the appropriate composition and you can see, because it not only shows it in your scene here, but it also shows it down here on your layer that something's missing, right? So you can automatically tell that's the layer that's gone. You can select that layer, right click, and then under the layer options, there's a spot that says reveal right here. And you can reveal the layer in the source project, the layer source in your project, right? So if I click on that, it's going to show me that layer here in my project panel. The other thing that you can do is if you have multiple missing files, which means maybe the project itself was moved out of the original file. But if you were to come up into the search bar in your project panel right up here, and you type missing into the search bar. All right, come on now. Get out of here. We're having fun already. Escape. Stop doing that. Right click. Delete. Delete. Don't delete. Undo. Escape. There we go. If you type missing, MISSING, it will show your missing assets here, right? So you can type anything that you're looking for into this search panel too. So if I wanted to see my main comps, I could type main here and I could see, oh, it's bringing up this student's main render, because this was the name of their composition that they rendered out, and this is the name of their file, their MP4 file. It also brought my main composition up here. And so this is pretty cool that you can use this to just kind of quickly find things in your project. So this is going to be the problem specifically that we have with Jasmine's project, right? So if I were to close this project out, let's save it real quick so that... Do I want to save the changes? Actually, first we have to relocate that thing. So backtracking real quick. I found this asset and I have moved it to a new folder. I know that I consciously did that. I am going to right click on here and we're going to replace footage. Okay, there's an option when you right click and it will say replace footage, and you just go to file and you click on that, and then you have to navigate specifically to that space where you moved that specific asset, and then you select it there and you hit import, and then all of a sudden my object is back here, and then I can go back here and turn that tint back on, right? You can turn on and off effects, right? Because in this area, any kind of things that are inside of your effects control panel are called effects. And there's this little box right here. And if it says FX, like F is in Frank, X is in xylophone there, it means that it's on. And if you want to turn it off, you just click that off. You just toggle it on and off, right? And so you can turn effects on and off that way. But just remember that you need to turn them back on if you want it to render within your file. So I'll turn that back on. I'm going to save my project. And then we're going to close my project out real quick. And Jasmine, I'm going to use your project as like an example of what will happen when you just send in After Effects files to me. Because all of those outside assets that are connected to that project are going to be nowhere in sight because they weren't saved with it. There's a specific way you have to save a project with assets in order to have it collect essentially all of those outside assets together in one folder and link it with your project. So if I were to open this right now, you'll see what will happen is we're going to get a bunch. We're first of all going to get a warning that says you're missing so many files. After Effects is missing one file since I saved this project. All right. And that file is the bouncing ball. I can see Jasmine's keyframes. And I can see the actual project here, like, right? I can see the animation, but it's just appearing as a square. Right now, it's not that colored square because, again, the effect is on there. If I were to click off of it or shut that effect off shortly, we would see the same thing. Now, if there were other parts to this, like, remember we imported our PNG sequence for not only the 3D ball and also the hand-drawn animated ball. If those were in this project currently, then those would also appear like this. And we would have an issue like this, right? And so that's why when you're saving projects, if you were to do this, first of all, I will always let you know if I want you to turn in an actual project, the working project file. These things are called working project files. But 99.9% of the time, I'm going to tell you to turn in a finalized rendered video. Okay? Just so you guys are aware. And I'm actually kind of happy, Jasmine, that this was the occasion so we can all talk about it. And so if for some reason we needed to do that, what you do is you need to make sure you save your project with dependencies. It's called dependencies instead of assets, but it is the same, essentially the same thing. So if I were to turn this on, let's see here. Maybe I closed out this. No. Let's see. Actually, let me go this way. Saving a file with dependencies. Dependencies. IES. Can I move it? Let's see here. Yeah, cool. Save your files with dependencies, aka assets. Okay, so that's all that word means. To do that, you would have to make sure that all of your stuff is already linked, right? So we would have to make sure that Jasmine had the file with the bouncing ball here, and you go up to File and down to where it says dependencies. There's a specific like drop down menu that says that, and then you're gonna hit Collect Files. Right. This project needs to be saved first. Do we want to save it? Of course we would want to. And then you're gonna get this option here. All right. We need to reduce the project, so you want to make sure that that's always checked. You want to make sure that for all comps is selected here and nothing else, right? Unless you're only sending a specific composition to someone. If you're sending an entire project to someone, you want to make sure it says for all comps. And if not, you just want to put for the selected comp that you're currently on. And reducing the project is just going to get rid of anything that maybe is not used within the project. Because sometimes you bring in assets into your project that you initially are using, and then maybe you don't use later on in a revision round or something. But instead of deleting that asset, it's good to keep it in the project just to maybe file it away in a previous folder or something. Working non-destructively is kind of important in this industry, just learning to keep things kind of tucked away into maybe another space where they don't need to be accessed right away. But just reducing the project will get rid of any unneeded or unnecessary assets. And then you want to reveal the collected project in Explorer, so like in your file Explorer, when it's finished. And then you hit collect. And what it will do is it will take all those dependencies, put them in a footage folder, that same footage folder where we found that ball initially, and then it will give you like a main folder outputted. And so that main folder, you would compress it into a zip file, and then you would send it along to someone if they asked for it. That is something that occurs very frequently within the animation field. A lot of the time, specifically working remotely, you will send projects to other people, or maybe you're working on a project and you get busy and you have to hand that project off to another editor or animator or something like that. And so it's very important to know how to save and collect all those dependencies or assets with your project so that you don't hand a project off and it's got a bunch of missing stuff. And that person's like, hey, this would be great, except I don't actually have everything I need. And so it's important to think of that ahead of time, okay, you guys? And so you can note that. You probably won't be doing that within class, but that is something you guys could write down for future references if you ever need to. Just when you get a chance, can I check your project? Yeah, we're gonna check your project. Did you turn it in? Did you turn it in today, Efren, or is it in here? We're gonna go over the projects right now. I'm gonna go over all your submissions. After Effects, bouncing ball. Mine was the one that we put those in. I'm gonna close this folder. Move this over. Close that. Let's look. Yes, it is turned in. All right, Efren, let's go ahead. Unknown exception. I'm going to hit OK there. I'm not sure what that unknown exception was. We might find out later. All right, under submissions, we're going to start up at the top and we're just going to kind of go down. I'm going to try and travel through these as quickly as possible. But we're going to look at this real quick, and I can tell you right away because frame rate option, right? So when I brought all of these MP4s that you guys submitted, I brought them into my project here. And because I have all this data here, if I make this bigger, I can see who already has the appropriate frame rate to their projects. Right here, we already have an incorrect frame rate for this one. Let's see, this 60 frames a second. This one's going to be interesting to watch. But that's incorrect. 12 frames a second is incorrect as well. And so you guys will want to make sure that if you submitted it and it's not 24 frames a second, right there, right there, right there, then you want to adjust that, right? So this will affect how it plays back. This one might not look as crazy different because it's so close to the 24 frames a second, but this is something that is used with cameras for filming and not for animation. So we want to make sure that it's exactly 24 frames a second. And let's start going over these. I'm going to make this smaller. And right here. So this is the first one. Let me go to this speed grader so I can see everyone's names. So this is Ian's. Let's go ahead and see Ian's. I am just going to go hit play. All right. Oh, let's first of all fit this into the screen. All right. Cool. Angel, I will check, and then also Evan, you were only, that's okay. You still have time to resubmit these, right? So you guys can make changes and resubmit them for a different grade if you need to later. So the first thing that I am noticing on Ian, good job, first of all. I really am digging the squash and stretch. The colors are cool, right? You got like this neon green kind of happening. And the squash and stretch on everything, if I watch it from one ball to the next, looks pretty good. Really cool movement lines there. Really neat squashing happening on that one. And then if we come over here to the After Effects ball, that one looks really nice. It squashes, comes down here. Let's see, it's going to travel down, stretching, squashing right there, bouncing back up. And then same with the Cinema 4D ball here. A couple things that we can do to improve this. First of all, the ball bounce, the font or the title, right? You want to be off screen before the rest of the balls come into screen, because that's a little distracting, right? We don't want to have things, unless it's specifically meant to overlay, we don't really want to have it fading off when the rest of it's already on screen and happening, because we want to just pay attention to the balls themselves and not to the text that's on screen. So you're going to want to make sure you just take those keyframes, right? Because right here I have those fade keyframes. You're just going to grab those keyframes and shuffle them so that they're not overlapping where your ball bounce is happening, right? Because right here I have one of the composition with all the balls bouncing. And if I were to leave that on there, see how it fades off while the balls are coming onto screen. We don't want that. And so on your timeline, a little bit different. I know we talked about how spacing of imagery has to be closer together to go slower. Get that thought out of your mind when you're looking at the timeline inside of After Effects and Cinema 4D. So when you take keyframes, you can grab them and you can shuffle them around like this on your timeline. And you can also grab them and extend time, right? So if your keyframes are further apart on your timeline, that makes things longer. And if they're closer together, that's shorter as far as time goes, right? So just consider what your timeline is like. And so maybe you just need to shorten this end keyframe up. So maybe it's over here somewhere. You just need to tighten that up and bring that in closer to the first keyframe. So that's the first change I would make. The second change I would make is it looks like maybe the bouncing ball here, if it was done appropriately inside of Adobe Animate, as far as like your frames, how many frames per second you have. This one here might not be interpreted, right? When we bring this this part of the project into After Effects, remember we have to right click on the PNG sequence and interpret the footage, go to main, and then make sure that it's at 24 frames a second and not like 12 frames a second or anything like that. So you want to make sure that your footage is interpreted properly. In fact, let me just close this out right here. Let me try and close these, because sometimes I jump back and forth and I don't intentionally mean to do that. So you want to make sure that you interpret that footage, because right now this is going very quickly, right? And it's not at the same time as the rest of the ball bounces. The other thing we want to do as far as the After Effects ball is you want to add that motion blur. That's about the only thing that I would do to this ball, and it'll make it look a lot faster. And then finally on the 3D ball here, remember that you want to turn this wireframe off inside of Cinema 4D before you render it, right? And that's by hitting the following. You hit N first, and then you hit A, right? So you're going to hit N first, and then A. When you're looking in your project and you're inside of Cinema 4D and you're in your viewport, you just click that NA, or you can go up to the view and then pick Gerard shadings without lines, right? We don't want that wireframe showing. So you're going to want to re-render that without the wireframe there. Other than that, there's just one more thing, is that when we go over down here, there's some kind of space happening right here. The balls fade out and fade back in. So you're going to want to make sure there's no keyframes on your pre-composition, that there's no transparency keyframes happening there. And then also there's just one spot where we get to the end where the background layer just needs to be extended so it goes all the way to the end of the video, right? Because all of a sudden it turns black because that layer is just cut short when maybe you extended your timeline. So you want to make sure that you're checking that on there. Other than that, it's a very good start. All the easing and stuff looks really good, and I'm excited to see more of your work. Good job. Let's see. But I got the basics up and down. That's okay. Yeah, thank you. I was gonna try my rental laptop and my dad's desktop and see if I can get, see which one works better for you. All right, let's go to Logan. Logan's in the chat, right? Let's see what's going on. All right. First of all, cool colors. Maybe I'd change the color of this one right here, the 3D ball, to look like these blue colors. And then maybe the 3D ball could be this blue color, and then the platform could be the green color right here. So I would do that just to have a consistent color palette. But let's hit play here. All right, looking cool. All right, we definitely have the appropriate amount of bounces. You want to make sure you add a title into here, Logan, before like that introduces the ball, right? So all you got to do is watch the last live stream, and I talk about how to add a title in right at the end of the video. So you can watch that and see how to add that in to here. So adding that title. As far as the hand-drawn bouncing ball is, this looks really nice. It's very fluid. I love your the little motion lines look really good. It looks a little fast, so just make sure that you interpreted your footage correctly. I think it probably is interpreted, but just double check it because I can't 100% tell. Because it does look a little fast, but it is in line with this After Effects bouncing ball right here. You're going to want, I see the squashing and stuff happening here. The squashing looks good. We just need the stretching to occur on that After Effects ball. So when the ball's at the top and it starts to go down, we want that ball to stretch out. So you'll just have to add the additional keyframes there where the percentages are flip-flopped from the squash, right? So, when you're squashing, when it gets down here, and maybe the ball comes out here, you take away, or you add 20% to the X value, you need to make sure you're decreasing 20% from the Y value. So you're going to want to make sure right here doesn't look like it quite decreases in that Y value. So you're going to want to make sure you do that. And then when that goes down, you're going to want to flip-flop those values, right? So the y-axis will be longer, a higher value, and the x-axis will be the width of it will be a smaller value. And then same when that ball bounces up into the air. So if you watch the most recent one, if you rewatch maybe some sections of that where we add the squash and stretch, that'll help you to figure that out a little bit more on how to get all of that. And then we could just work on the timing of where the ball starts to squash. But this is a great start. It's a great job blocking this out. And then we just want to add some motion blur to this to sell that speed. As far as the bouncing ball goes for the Cinema 4D one, we need to work on the easing of this ball here. So you're going to want to watch the easing section again in class where we accelerate on the way down, because right now it's decelerating on the way down. But we want to accelerate on the way down and decelerate on the way up, similar to what we're doing in these areas. In fact, now that I'm watching that there and then watching that happen on this middle ball, you're going to want to do the same thing to the middle one as well, because it looks like it's linear. Like your keyframes, your position keyframes are linear instead of eased. So you're going to want to make sure that maybe you just rewatch those sections a little bit. You've got a majority of the work done. It's just going to be like fine-tuning things. But really good job so far. All right. Let's see here. We have Maya. All right. Let me see. And I'm going to play. Hit play. Ball bounce. Cool. Cool animation there. Yeah, good start on this. Good start on this, Maya. Let me move this over. I think that, yeah, we're good on the frames per second there. All right, that's cool. I like that fade in like that. It's kind of noisy fading that's happening. Let's look at the hand-drawn ball, and then we'll move over. But the first thing that I notice is the color palette is different, right? The balls should all pretty much match through all of this. So all you got to do is either come into your Adobe Animate and your Cinema 4D one and update the colors that way. But what I would do is I would just update the color of the ball for After Effects, and I think that would be much easier and simpler, because then you don't have to go in here and change both of the colors. As far as the bouncing of the hand-drawn ball goes, it is a very good start. You have to interpret the footage because right now it's way too fast, right? So you want to, again, how you do that, right, is you go to that PNG sequence that we brought in here. You right click, you go to interpret footage, go to main, and then you change it to 24 frames a second, and then you line up the sequences back to back so that they get the so that you get the regular bouncing there. But that looks really good. Good squashing on there. The only other thing that I would say about this one is that the ball doesn't go up as high both times. So it doesn't look like a seamless loop, right? Where the ball starts up at the top and after it bounces down the first and then it's going back up, it should be about the same spot up at the top where you started, right? And that gives you that seamless bounce right there. You can update that if you want to by going in and just going over each one of those frames and just kind of moving them back up a little bit to where this initial bounce started. So if we go here and let's see if I can I turn I can bring my ruler in. Let's see. The ball center is right about here at the start of your animation. And then we go down. It's going to hit the ground and come back up. And notice stretch happening there where it's squashing when it's hitting the ground and stretching on both the down and the up part. And you've got the motion blur in there, so you're all set with that one. I would just change the color of the ball to match the other two. And then as far as your ball here in Cinema 4D, this is a good one as well. We just need to take that wireframe off of there. So like I said before, just go into the comp and hit NA to take the Gerard shading plus the lines off. We don't want the lines when we render it. And then you guys should be good to go on that one. Just re-render it at that point. And then if you guys want to, right, let's say you re-rendered it, and all you got to do is, if you had removed all of the other prior PNGs from the folder that they were in, you re-render that Cinema 4D thing or your Adobe Animate sequence, you can just come into your project, right click, and reload that footage. Instead of replacing the footage, you reload the footage. And as long as everything's named the same as what it was before, it will just automatically update that PNG sequence for you. So another quick tip. All right, let's move forward here. Let's see. This one, appropriate frames per second there. That looks good, Pierre. Pierre's in the chat. What's up, dude? Let's look. First of all, I love the blue color. Ball bounce. Oh, yeah, this is cool. Nice. Very solid job on this, Pierre. Good job on the text there. Fades off. Let's look at this first. Let's look at the first one. First of all, color combination. Very strong color combination that you have here. And I like it a lot. I love the pink. I think everything has a really good saturation, really good contrast. So I just wanted to say that right off the bat. I think it's really neat that you kind of went right, thinking creatively outside of the box. This is kind of what I was discussing earlier, by having the rules and learning how to work around those rules to still meet the parameters of the project. Instead of drawing the lines around, like the motion lines, what Pierre has done is he's created a shadow, or like a floor that changes when the ball's going down and when it's bouncing up, right? So when that ball's higher up in the air, that shadow is smaller because it's further away from the ground. And then when that ball's coming down to the ground, it's expanding out, which is really cool. And neat idea with having the outline on the ball too. I haven't seen that yet. But if we play this, it's got a really nice solid squashing and stretching that's happening there. The only thing I guess I would do to maybe change this is scale it down just slightly. So things maybe match up a little bit more, but that's just kind of me nitpicking with that one. It's up to you. I'm not going to make you do it if you don't want to, but that's just kind of what I'm seeing here. But it looks very good. Solid job on that. And then this one as well. You've got the great squash and stretch, the balls accelerating on the ground, decelerating on the way back up. The only thing you need to do is add the motion blur onto here, and it will add some more of that, speed that we're looking for. I'm not quite sure why the ground is like expanding and like it's like getting smaller and larger. Is that something you intentionally did with it? I don't not like it, actually. I think that it looks cool on here. I'm just wondering if it was an intentional thing, or if it was just kind of like what happened after rendering it out. Because I'm trying to figure out if we need to troubleshoot any kind of issue you need. Because when we play this, again, similar things happening here. When it might be that you're animating the, maybe you're animating the feather or the expansion of the mask, which is also something maybe that you could have done. Oh, cool. Yeah, keep it. Intentional. I like it. Keep it because it's cool, because it gives that a similar like effect there. Yeah, so just adding the motion blur there. And then this looks really cool too. I think that the ball, when we're watching it fall onto the ground, I'm just trying to break down the, I think it's hanging. What's happening here at the top, we're almost here. I think that, let me see the one I did. The one I did might have been very close to that, so. Maybe adjusting those curves a little bit here so that it's not so fast accelerating to the ground, because what looks like is happening is it almost looks like you've got it happening that way, and then it's like happening in reverse, like you're rewinding it. That's almost just like the thing that's kind of going through my mind when I watch it. And I think it's just because of the way that it pauses, that the ball pauses at the top of the bounce. So I think that all you need to do here is maybe adjust where your stretching keyframes are, maybe bring them in a little bit away from where the ball hits the peak position up at the top, right? So when your ball's at the top here, it's already fully, let me see, down, up. right here, like the position keyframe and the stretching keyframe should be offset a little bit. So you just take that stretching keyframe and bring it over to your right. And then the end one you'd bring into your left so that it's not done stretching exactly when the position is there, because I think what that effect is happening is that it's like like kind of squashing right up at the very top back to its original position, and it's just making it look um a little bit too slingshotty. And this is just me, like, you've already done a phenomenal job. This is just me, like, helping to push you a little bit further to make it look even better. But very good job so far on this. Very, very good start to this. Minimal edits needed, so good job on that. I will let everyone know, right, that we all, where's that? Yeah, I wanted to see the frame right here. Let me finish my thought. What was I trying to say? I tried watching the explanation live stream for the Cinema 4D ball a few times. I just can't grasp the whole curves thing for the life of me. That's okay. The curves comes with time while you're working. So maybe if you need a little bit of extra like assistance with that, we can look at that a little bit further outside of class. You can write me and maybe we can just hop on a quick call in Discord. Or what we can do is, if Belle's available, you can link up with Belle if you have the availability to go to tutoring as well, and she'll understand what I'm saying there, so that she'll be able to help you go through your project if needed. But it's okay. This happens, right? It takes a little while to get used to this. Let's see here. This one is Abby's, I believe. Yeah, Abby. Cool. All right, Abby, let's play. All right. Good start here, Abby. Some work we need to do to update it, but it's a great start here. The first thing, we need a title, right? So if you want to go to the end of the last live stream, find out how to put the title in, you can do that. The second thing that I noticed overall is that the color combination needs to be consistent over the entire video, especially because with the black and white ball the way it is hard to read on the white background. So you can, I particularly really like this color choice that you picked for the hand-drawn ball. And so if you want to like pick a similar color palette for these two balls, I think that would be really cool. And then, or you can just change the color of the animate ball, but a consistent color palette's going to look a lot nicer and a little less jarring. The other thing that I noticed here, right, is when we're looking at the frames per second, you have to update that to 24, just so you're aware. And when we start playing, let's go ahead and look from left to right. You have, the ball looks good, like the animation lines that you have here. With the little highlight on there looks really nice. The squashing and stretching, although a little bit minimal on the squashing, still looks good. If you can go through and round that out a little bit more, that's fine. If not, I get it if you're working with a mouse and keyboard, right? It's not so easy to draw a perfect circle with a mouse. You can also use the technique that I used last week during the live stream, where I created a shape and just moved that down and changed that shape using transform properties in Adobe Animate. So it's like more of like a perfectly round ball, and then you can hand draw the like highlights and movement lines down there. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can also come around here and try and just smooth this out a little bit if possible. But the main thing that I'm noticing here is that we have a dropped frame there. Now, this could be one of two things. Either we don't have the appropriate amount of frames drawn in the first place, so you want to double check that. Or what could be happening is we aren't lined up exactly in the like end to end when you're duplicating your composition over here, right? So I've got my PNG sequences all thrown into my composition here. If I make this bigger, we can see. And when I come to the end of one PNG sequence, if I zoom in on my timeline, down to minuscule frames, let me do that again. You can see that these are exactly, if I hit control arrow 1 over and 2 over, they are butted up exactly in the same spot, right? They're end to end. And that's what you want, because if you don't have it end to end, here's what happens. If I all of a sudden move this just a couple keyframes over, right, then I have what is occurring in your case here, where there's like dropped frames. Boom. See how all of a sudden, if I move these over like that, then there's going to be a spot where there's no ball. Like this blank thing that's happening there. And so you want to make sure that those layers, the PNG sequences, are lined up end to end. And then you'll get that nice seamless bounce happening where it's not dropping those frames for you. The other thing, you want to just make sure that you check that you've interpreted that footage appropriately, because it looks like it's bouncing at the same rate of the After Effects ball, but you definitely want to check that. As far as the After Effects ball goes, right, you have blocked out animation for, let me close these again. The animation is blocked out here, but we don't have the appropriate easing happening. So it needs to accelerate to the ground and decelerate on the way up. We do that using the curves, right? So you're going to want to watch that section over. And then you're going to want to add the squashing and stretching here, and eventually the motion blur, right? And I know this is a lot, but if you take it step by step, you'll be fine. You'll get to that point. And then also updating the color. The other thing that's occurring here is the ball is kind of snapping so right at the top of the bounce, which means your position keyframes might not be exactly the same at the top of the bounce versus when the ball hits the ground and comes back up, right? That third position keyframe that we should have there should be the same exact value as the first one. So when it's up here, it should be the same exact spot. Let's see if that's the problem. Let's bring a ruler down here real quick. I know it's kind of hard to see because we have a white background, but the rulers right here, these little guidelines, and so the ball's going to go back down, and then when it comes up, it looks like that might not be the problem. Looks like we have a little bit of overshoot happening, or maybe some issue with an additional keyframe. So this is going to have to take a little bit of troubleshooting inside of your composition. Look in there, make sure you don't have any extra keyframes. Make sure that if you do have curves, that they don't, that if there's a keyframe on your curve, let me show you here. Wrong. This one. After Effects ball pre-comp. We go here, hit U. We look at these curves. Let's look at the position curve here. You don't want these sections, let's make this bigger, to go above. You don't want that curve right here. Now it's going past where that keyframe is. You don't want that to happen. That causes overshoot, right? You want the curve to come up to where the keyframe is, but not peak above that. So I'm going to just undo that. And there you want to see the smooth curve coming up to that keyframe, that top bounce there, right? Because that's where this bottom part of the curve here is where we're at the top of our bounce. Remember, it's mirrored as far as what's in our composition versus what's on the graph here. And so you want to make sure that that curve isn't moving above that keyframe. Because then you'll get what's called overshoot, and then this is what's going to happen, right? The ball's going to shoot beyond the position, and it's going to give that little jerk motion. Like all of a sudden it's going to go beyond and then come back down to where it needs to go. That's okay in some instances. Having overshoot on some things isn't always a bad thing, but when it comes to this, because we're creating that seamless loop, we want to make sure that all our curves pretty much match, okay? Let's go to this third ball here. And so similar here, we're having this jumping that's happening in the animation. So you want to make sure that the curves and all our keyframes are back to back to back, and there's not like an extra little blip in between the keyframes where the ball is staying in one spot for a long time. If you need a little bit help with that, you can always reach out to me or Belle and we can help you, but you want to make sure you adjust that and then adjust the color. And then we also need to adjust the curve so that the ball's accelerating on the way down and decelerating on the way up. And we want to finally just make sure that that ball hits that platform and doesn't look like it's just kind of getting close and then not really hitting it. So this one takes a little bit of work. So you're going to have less work, a little bit more work, and then probably the most work here on this ball. But like I said, if you need any help, just reach out to me or Belle and we can arrange getting, some help on this project, but really good start overall. All right, so let's go here. We have Jarvis. Let's play. All right, ball bounce. I'll allow it, but that's so weird. Why are you... Oh my God. Jarvis, are you in the chat? What is this? I know who it is, but this is crazy. I would feel like now you're going to need, because part of the project is to be on the same color palette. So I think this is funny, but like, let's change it back. That's amazing. What's up, Isaac? Oh my gosh. This is great. This is Jesse's, not, yeah, Jesse, not Jarvis. Sorry, Jesse. Yeah, it is Walter White. That is hilarious. I'm the one who bounces. Not wrong. Okay, this is funny. Keep this as like one of your iterations of this, because I think this is a really funny thing. But for your I guess for your reel, we need to change it so that it's a little bit more, cohesive with the rest of these. But you could have this like a standalone render because that's really funny. But overall, like changing kind of the color palette between the three balls so that they all match, right? Same thing I've been saying to other students. Let's look at the balls as they bounce. Really good job on this Adobe Animate ball. Really cool looking stretching that you have going on here. And squashing that you have happening. So I'm super into that. Again, and I like the stroke actually on the ball. Highs and bounce. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. You guys give me life. I'll tell you what. You guys make my job fun. As far as this ball goes, the only thing I would do is move it over a little bit. Like make sure all three balls are distributed evenly with each other in the main composition as you're looking at it, so that, because this one just looks a little too close to the main After Effects ball, and you want to just make sure there's a little bit of cushion room in between those. So just move this, all you got to do is move the pre-comp over to your left side, right? As far as the After Effects ball goes, it looks really good. You got a lot of squashing in there, a lot of stretching, which looks really nice. You just have to add the motion blur to it, and it'll look even better because we won't see like the kind of remnants of the lines as they go down. It'll just make it sell that speed. And then as far as your highs and bounce, as Jesse, we need to bounce. We need to. The jokes keep coming. You guys are on one today. That's hilarious. Efren knows. He's like, I got this under lock. The bounce looks really cool. It actually looks really good. The your easing looks really nice. The bouncing actually looks really nice. This is really funny when we get to the bottom of the bounce and Walter White's face does that. Very weird, but very funny. But let's, like I said, we'll just have to go back to the original, I guess, stripe of the ball. Before for just the final, okay? But other than that, this is a good project, and you've got the 24 frames a second here, and it made me laugh, which is always plus a bounce purity. You guys make me want to watch. This makes me want to rewatch Breaking Bad because I haven't seen it in a long time. And also, sorry I called you Jarvis and not Jesse. I just saw Jarvis first, and I should have known. All right, we have Ivan. I'm Skylar Bounce. You and my husband is Walter Bounce. Yeah. Bouncing bad. Oh my god. Some of that blue, that good blue stuff is what everyone's on in the chat. You only got through the first season. It gets much better. Very, very good. All right, here's Ivan's. Ivan, are you in the chat? If you are, just say what's up. Let's go ahead and play here. All right. Cool. Good color combination all the way through. Looks really nice. Good job on the title. Let's go ahead and break it down. First of all, 24 frames a second on the video. Looks good. This looks really nice. I like that you ended up doing the like ball with the transform properties on the way down, which looks great. And then you added to it by drawing the lines. So I think that's really cool. There, I would just like maybe increase the size of the ball so it matches these ones a little bit more. But you interpreted the footage very nicely because it's very clean and all the balls bounce at the same like speed essentially. So really good there. As far as the After Effects bouncing ball, is the animation itself is top notch. You've got the motion blur happening on there. You've got the acceleration on the way down, the deceleration on the way back up, and it's just a really nice seamless loop here. The only thing I would do is just move the all you have to do, because you don't have any X position keyframes there, you can move that, right? If you had X position keyframes, you would have to keep in mind where you're moving everything, but because the ball really isn't in line with the floor, you could either A, move the ball, B, move the floor. Either one will work. And you can just shuffle that over a little bit and just line these up for us. And then as far as the bouncing right here, looks pretty good. Let me see. Bounce, hit all the way up, stop at the... Maybe I would also bring the... Let's look at that real quick so we can talk about it, because I also talked about this for Piers, which both are very good. We just want to... Let's see if we can just address it real quick so I can visually show you guys what I'm talking about, since I think it's the same thing. And it might just be me looking at it now and not really remembering how I did it before. But let's look here. You better be right on highs and bounce. Okay, let's bring this over here. Let's look at those keyframes just so we can just see what's going on. This is, you know, I wasn't going to do these, the project reviews in class, but it's really important that we all see where, like, we're all maybe having issues. Because, you know, we all aren't going to get things perfect on the first try. No, it looks like I have the scale and it looks like it's that way. So nothing to adjust on that. You guys both have it the way that I did it in class. So, Pierre, I know I said to have to adjust that, and that's so you don't have to if this pretty much looks like this, right? Because if I roll that up there to kind of clean this up, and I click my scale keyframes, they obviously highlight in orange, and if I hover over, it goes to the 1-to-1 ratio, right? 1, 1, 1 on all of my coordinates, right where the position's up at the top. What I was saying is if you wanted to take those scale ones and maybe grab this one and move it in a couple keyframes so that when the ball is up at the top of the bounce, it's already at that 1, 1 scale and then it starts to go down. You can do that, but you have to move these keyframes in. You have to move them to the right. And then when the ball comes back up here, you would have to move these scale keyframes inwards the same amount. And so it's already at that full scale, then it stretches on the way down, squashes, and then comes all the way back up. But you have to do that before you repeat everything, right? Or you have to at least update all the repeated keyframes here so that you don't have something that ends up going out of sync. So if you want to do that, you can, but I'm not going to mark you guys down on points for that because I did it the way you guys did it. Or you guys just kind of copied what I did. Maybe Pierre, maybe the issue would be the F curves here. So maybe we can just look at that a little bit, if we need a little bit help. But other than that, you guys both did a really good job. So you don't have to update those keyframes if you don't want to. And then let's go back here. Yeah, really good job. Great job on that, Ivan. All right, we have David. Let's play here. 2D After Effects. Cool. Let's change it to ball bounce. Oh, look, we have an attempted bounce happening with, okay. I see what we're doing here. That's cool, kind of stopping it down. This isn't bad. I mean, this is a start, but you want to make sure you stick within the parameters of the project, right? So we could do, in fact, I was going to maybe give you guys an opportunity to create kind of what I call a portfolio shot where you have like it looks specifically really nice to do that. What I would do here though, right, is we want to have the one single title with the ball bounce and then all three balls just having a vertical bounce first, right? You can do this stuff later. This is really great to know how to do to add that the X position animation in it as well. But because everyone else is doing the vertical ones, that's what I really want to see for the rest of the project. Let's kind of break this down though, so we can see what's happening. So it looks good. You can kind of follow the path that's happening. If I were to draw the path of let's go back here, right here. If I were to draw the path of it, it kind of goes down like this, hits the ground, bounces back up, comes here, and then just kind of gets smaller and smaller as it goes, which is really good. Like you're getting the concept of timing of how a ball would lose momentum as you bounced it along. Like if I were to throw a ball across toss it across my room and it hit the ground and it would bounce just like this, right? Each bounce would get shorter in length this way and shorter in height this way, right? As it goes further along. So you've got that concept down well here. It would just need some fine tuning. It's kind of blocked out there, but there is squashing happening. You would need to also add stretching into this as well. Maybe a little bit more at certain points. But it was a valiant effort, I will say. But for this one, do the vertical one, at least just for the project. And then this we can always work on a little bit later. And let's see the 2D animated ball bounce. This one, though, sticks along the lines of the project. There's just that one. It looks good overall. It looks like maybe we're in 60 frames a second, first of all, right here. So that needs to be updated to 24 frames a second for your render. Because this is just way too fast and it looks a little weird when it comes to animation. That might be why this looks the way it does. Like too fast. So you're definitely going to want to check your composition settings. And then as far as this ball goes, when I play it, it's definitely too fast. So if we drop this to 24 frames a second, let's see how it looks. And then make sure that you've interpreted your PNG sequence. And then when the ball stretching and the squashing looks good, like when I start up here, squashes down, maybe just clean up the circle a little bit and make sure that the volume stays the same, because the volume of the ball up at the top of the bounce is very small. It looks like a smaller ball, almost like a tennis ball. But then as we go down, that ball gets bigger, especially on that bounce or on that floor position when it's squashing down here. And so you want to make sure that the ball always maintains the same volume from the top all the way down, even when it's distorting in shape for the squashing and stretching. And then just fill in the bottom couple keyframes there, and then you should be all set to go. So these ones up here, instead of making the ones down at the bottom smaller, at the bottom of the bounce smaller, I would make the ones heading towards the top of the bounce just a little bit bigger and just round it out as much as possible. But good start there. And then for the 3D ball, I can see what you're trying to do with like losing that momentum. Smart thinking ahead, right? But because it's a loop, we want to have that seamless ball bounce. And so you want to make sure that the vertical position is the same on every single bounce, so it looks like it's just continuously bouncing. I know that's not realistic, right? But we do that to just make a seamless loop, and so that we can really see the properties of the bounce happening. The other thing that is, so as it goes down, there's not really squashing. You want to make sure that you're adding the squashing to when it's hitting the, let's kind of move one frame at a time, because it's bouncing there. When it hits the ground, you want to make sure it starts to squash, right? So I would just rewatch this section over, and maybe you're just going to have to copy and paste your position, the top position keyframes to where these are, and then adjust the curves a little bit, and you've got like a majority of it blocked out, right? But like I said, valiant effort with that. And the only other thing is to make sure everything's consistent amongst the color palette with all of the balls, and then taking off this wireframe here when you render it, because we don't want the audience to see, like, it's essentially looking at the bones or your skeleton of your geometry, and we don't want them to see that, right? We don't want people to get scared of all our bones showing. I realize how that sounded, so. All right, moving forward. We've still got a lot of these to go through, so I'm going to try and get through the rest of these as quickly as possible. This is a big class, so we have a lot of stuff. All right, Lola, let's see here. First, real quick, just Lola, we just want to make sure that it's fully faded off here when we start, so that there's nothing there, and then it fully fades on. So if someone's just at the beginning of the video here, they don't barely kind of see that, but it still looks cool. Let's see here. All right, and then just like I was talking about before, making sure that the text is faded off when the balls start bouncing on screen. Isaac, I was having trouble rendering the 3D ball, but I figured it out eventually. Yeah, you might have to rewatch a couple times the video on how to render it out, because it's more of a complex process to render out the ball inside of Cinema 4D. Good consistent color palette throughout the video here. Looks good. Maybe you could adjust the color on this ball here, but other than that, the pinks look nice. Let's look at the first one here, your animate one. Nice. It stays the same volume from the top of the bounce all the way to the bottom of the bounce. Looks very good here. Really nice. The actions lines look really cool. That flashing, you guys, is my GPU doing that for some reason. Nothing that is happening in your video. Yeah, so really good job on this one here. Make sure that the PNG sequence is appropriately interpreted, but I think it probably is. Looks like it to me. As far as the After Effects ball goes, let's look at this one. All right, we have the stretching, and when it hits the ground, I think we're just missing the squash. Let's see. No, the squashing happens. Here, the ball just kind of goes down a little bit further on the floor. So it just looks like, there we go. Got nice squashing and stretching happening. Accelerating down to the ground and decelerating on the way back up. Looks really good there. I think that I would just, I have a terrorist trying to get in my room. Not a real one, just a cat. But they're all terrorists. Anyways, the only thing I would do in this one is just add motion blur and you're good to go. That looks really good. Good job on the animation there, the squash and stretch. The timing looks really nice. Overall, really good job on that. And then the Cinema 4D ball. Let's rewatch that. Nice. You have the good acceleration on the way down. Deceleration on the way back up. It looks like there might just be some issue. Maybe it looks like what happened is you rendered out only one bounce and then added the took the PNG sequence and lined it up back to back inside of After Effects. Not that that's wrong. You can do that if you guys want to. It could save a little bit more rendering time when it comes to Cinema 4D. But what's happening is we're having like a jump happen in the animation. So you want to make sure that they are lined up appropriately. Because here it starts, let's see, it goes down, goes back up, and then all of a sudden it glitches right there. And then the ball's in a different spot. So maybe this might need to be checked in first After Effects. And if it's not something inside of After Effects, inside of your composition, then it's going to be something inside of Cinema 4D with either keyframes overlapping or maybe there's something going on with the curves. But we kind of want to work backwards here, right? So we're going to start looking inside of Cinema 4D, seeing where that issue is. I'm sorry, inside of After Effects and seeing where that issue is, and then moving your way into Cinema 4D to see if maybe it's keyframes or maybe it's the shape of my graph. But other than that, really, kind of minimal edits that you need to do here. Looks pretty good overall as far as being blocked out. And yeah, so just check this one mostly. Is going to be most of your work here. And see if maybe we can match the colors up to these colors here. All right, let's go to Cole. Let's see here. All right. Who did I have last? Lola? This was Lola's, yeah. All right, Cole's here. Cole, let's see. I think this is just going to be the hand-drawn one, right? Because if we fit this into the screen. Yeah, we have the hand-drawn animated ball. So let's look at that. First of all, when you bring it into After Effects, you want to make sure you interpret that footage to 24 frames a second. But you actually rendered it out at 12 frames, so it's going to look normal. But when you go and put that in with the other balls, you want to just make sure you interpret that. And then let's just kind of watch it right now and see what we've got so far. I love the squashing that's happening. Goes back up, goes back down. You've got this cool shift in color that's happening there as well. You could maybe erase some of the floor so it's similar to the After Effects ball where it like maybe fades out a little bit, so you can just use your eraser tool and erase kind of the sides so that you're not going to have a hard line when you bring that into when you bring this into After Effects with the other balls, right? Because this floor is gonna go across, and depending on where you move this animate ball, it's gonna just cut off hard. So maybe if you want to take the eraser tool and just kind of erase like these areas right here and fade them off a little bit, I think that'd be cool. Nothing wrong with having a floor in there. And when it's at the top, it looks like it's, you know, a great loop, really nice, very smooth. The ball stays the same volume all the way. When it goes down, it starts to extend and then flattens out real nice and skinny there. So you did a really good job on this one. I'm very excited to see the rest of the ball mounts happening for the After Effects and the Cinema 4D one. But yeah, really good start on this one, Cole. Into it. All right, let's look here. Next one. All right, cool. Let's, first of all, 24 frames a second. Way to go. This is Alex's ball ones. Sweet. I finished the 2D animation one as well, working on the Cinema 4D one now. Awesome. That's great, Cole. Yeah, it looks really cool. Just like with the floor thing, I would just do that and you'll be good to go. But really good start on that. All right, let's see. As far as this goes here real quick, Alex, and I'm just going to say it only because we're right here on the title. But what I would do is just extend the length of the title a little bit so we have a little bit more time to read it on screen. Because it settles into the animation right here, right there. And then all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, only 7 frames. So like a very fraction of a second, we get to see the rest, like the actual title, what it says. So you just want to hold on to that title a little bit longer. So we have like a couple seconds to read it. Maybe even just like, you know, if you can read it out loud, then that's the key. But the color palette here is beautiful. Very subtle, kind of like this navy blue jean color blue, and you did a really good job matching them up together. The second thing that I noticed is I'm digging the platform that you have drawn down here on the hand-drawn animated ball. Really cool style that you have with like not only like a solid one, but then you also have just kind of an outline there. So again, those thinking outside the box things, really beneficial. Also, I think you added a little bit of a glow here, which looks neat. Because I can see what's happening is there's like, you can see that there's shading happening on the outside of the ball. So it's kind of making it look more like a sphere, and then it's brighter here. So I'm not sure what you did there. To me, it kind of looks like some kind of glow effect that you might have added here onto the ball, but looks really cool. You did a great job as far as visually appealing. Looks great. Let's break down the animation. If I start at the Adobe Animate ball right here, let me see if I can just do this. Nice. Yeah, really good job on that Adobe Animate ball. Again, retaining both the volume / mass of the ball on the way down with the stretch, and when it smashes the ground, the squash looks really, really nice on there. Even the squashing of the actual highlight that you've drawn on the ball looks really nice. Really, really good job. Attention to detail was paid on that Adobe Animate ball, so yeah, I'm digging it. As far as the After Effects ball goes, let's look at this one on its own. We have a really nice smooth curves that you have going on with the acceleration on the way down and the deceleration on the way up. All of the balls bounce at about the same speed, right? It's kind of hard. I mean, obviously we are able to do it with keyframes specifically in After Effects and in Cinema 4D. We can count out the exact same amount of keyframes that we make each bounce, and they'll line up. But as far as the Adobe Animate, the hand-drawn one goes, that's a little bit harder to do. But you did a really good job just kind of keeping them about the same height. So where you change that, and yeah, just solid job overall in the composition. The motion blur in here looks really good. Squashing and stretching looks really good. I really wouldn't change anything that you have on this After Effects ball. Let's see here. It's going to hit the ground. Yeah. Anchor points are appropriate. Everything looks really nice on that. And then finally, let's look at the ball here in Cinema 4D. Again, really great job on the timing. The acceleration on the way down and the deceleration on the way up look really nice. So your curves are good. The squashing and stretching look good. You might need to, I can't tell, and it might just be because of the angle, but just double check that you've squashed it in the same. So remember, the X and the Z position have to be the same, right? The only thing that's going to be different is that Y position. But always the X and the Z are going to be locked into the same value inside of Cinema 4D as far as on your timeline. So make sure that your Z coordinate on your scale is the same as the X, because right now it looks like it's just not squashing in both directions, which means that the volume of the ball would be different when it hits the ground. But other than that, that's the only thing I would check. This looks really, really nice overall. Very, very solid job, Alex. Very good job. All right, Annika. Let's see this ball. Let's go ahead and play. Ball bounce. Good job on that. Nice job on the color palette. This looks solid. Looks really nice. 2, 3, 4. Everyone's got the appropriate amount of bounces that are happening. Let's kind of move this here. Color palette's really nice. I like it a lot. Let's do that. 24 frames a second as far as the video goes. Looks good. Let's look at this Adobe Animate ball. Looks really good on the squashing and stretching, and the remaining the same as far as the volume again. Especially like the way you obviously interpreted the footage appropriately, because they're within the same range when, especially the After Effects ball to the Adobe Animate ball are like pretty much the same exact bounce. The timing is impeccable on that, which is kind of hard to get. The squashing looks really nice. I think that it'd be cool to add, since you're using like the round shape, maybe adding some hand-drawn like speed lines in there, or maybe just a highlight on there to give it a little bit more of like a hand-drawn kind of aesthetic too. I think that would be neat. But again, not required, but that ball bounce looks really good as far as the retaining that same mass with everything. Looks really nice. Maybe what I would do, I wouldn't know. Don't even worry about what I was going to say. You don't have to do it. Let's look at the After Effects ball. First of all, obviously the motion blur on there. Good job. The squashing and the stretching. Let's see if I bring it up here. It's going to stretch, hit the ground, squash, and come back up. You want to check your values here so that as the ball expands on the X value, it's going to, get smaller on the height. So your Y value. So you're going to want to make sure that those two values, whatever you add to one, you deduct from the other. So you're just going to want to check that because it looks like it doesn't quite squash the appropriate amount going down as much as it should. But just double check. If it actually does, then just discount what I'm saying. The only other thing that I'm noticing is that the ball slows down. The ball slows down before it hits the ground. And we want to make sure that it speeds all the way up to the ground, hits the ground, makes that impact. And then on that way back up, it's decelerating. Because right now it's, you want to just check the easing on that so that the curve looks like kind of like an upside down bounce, right? So just the easing on that ball. And then as far as the ball goes for the Cinema 4D one, the first thing that I obviously, that's kind of an obvious here, is that the size of the ball is expanding way too much. Like the volume's changing kind of chaotically throughout the bounce. Like it's not, it should be a 1-to-1 up here, which it is, right? So when you look at the scale properties inside of Cinema 4D, The values automatically are always 1, 1, 1. And you want to make sure that you maybe just rewatch that section of the video over where we start to do the scale, because the X and the Z, again, like I was talking previously, the X and the Z position have to be the same value no matter what. So if you decrease the X one, you're going to decrease the Z one. If you increase the if you increase the X coordinate, you're going to increase the Z. And then you're always going to do the opposite with the Y value, right? Because we need to maintain the same volume, width and depth wise. And then the thing that's changing differently is always going to be your Y value. And this is kind of like expanding and getting smaller in different ways. So you want to make sure you're going to want to rewatch that section, because we want to get the scale done appropriately. As far as the position goes, it's a little hard for me to tell if your curves are correct on the position and the ball's accelerating on the way down and decelerating on the way up, because the scale's kind of taking over the visuals for it. So even when I play it, it looks like it's appropriate, but you might just want to check those just in case. But really good start to everything, and really kind of not that many crazy changes that you need to make. Solid job overall. All right, we have Isaac. Isaac's in the chat. What's up, Isaac? Let's start here. Bouncing ball animation. Let me go ahead and go back there. Good title on there. Maybe just extend the length that it's on screen so we can read it just a little, like an extra half a second on there. And I think it'll be good, because you'll see if I go frame by frame, it goes all the way up and then all of a sudden it goes right back down. So you want it to fade up, be up all the way for a good second or two, and then fade out. Cool text though. Let's see here. The other thing that I'm seeing initially is that you actually have, and this is a good thing to mention because this is going to happen to other people. First of all, good job on the frame rate. You got that there. But we have some black bars on the side here. And that could be what usually happens to students this is because you're working in a zoomed in view. Which happens all the time, because then if I stop here and then go to here, right, it's the same. You still have like the composition's getting cut off here on the sides. Was that intentional or was that not intentional? Just let me know in the chat, and then I'll move forward here. As far as color palette, like I've been telling everyone, just make sure everything's kind of the same color palette throughout. So you want to change. It'll probably be easier to change this one and this one here. But you can pick whatever one you want. The green's cool though. And then while we're watching this one, this ball bounce looks good. I think you still need to interpret the footage. But as far as like the size, like as the ball's mass goes down and it squashes, comes back up. I love the whole outline thing you guys are doing here. It looks really neat. Just gives it like different dimension thing. I wasn't able to export the video in MP4, so I'm exporting it differently. It's an MP4. It says the extension right here. So you've got the MP4. What probably happened was this. If I go into my main render here, and you can see that if I shut off my title action safe, which are my guides, right? And I can see the edge of my composition here because I'm zoomed out right here, right there. I'm zoomed out to 62%. If I move this to fit up to 100%, this is basically fitting my screen so I can see basically all my edges, right? But if I were to hit Control Plus and zoom in here, I can see I can see the animation here. And if I were to draw a box, all of a sudden, let me click off of there. And if I was like, oh, I need to create my background, and I come here and I draw a box to be the size of my screen right here where I'm seeing. If I go out, if I move out, you can see that that box is not actually the size of my composition. And so if you're working accidentally zoomed in, that can be a problem. That can be what maybe causes the bars there. Also, what else could cause it is if your composition's not at the 1920 1080. Or if your main composition is a little bit bigger than this 1920 1080. So, oh no. Sorry, Isaac, we're going to get back in there. Let's see. Are you guys still here? Cool. Sweet. Oh, nice. Okay, Isaac. I see what you said in the... You guys, we wished it into fruition. It's good. We're back. Okay, I see what you said for not having that option. Are you working on a Mac? That's really weird that you didn't have an MP4 option. Okay, that might be the issue that we're running into. I'm not going to knock you any points off on this project for that. But it's something that we need to look into. So, it's worth a Google to see why Media Encoder doesn't include an MP4 encoding. Because it should, because the only thing that has the problem, right, is that Macs can play MP4 videos and QuickTime videos, which are .mov, but PCs can't actually play .mov videos, which are QuickTime videos, unless you have QuickTime Player or you have like a certain downloaded codec into your computer, which allows you to play them. If you bring .mov files into After Effects, it will do that. So what I would do, Isaac, let's look that up. We'll troubleshoot that problem outside of class. But we'll talk more about, let's talk about your actual video then, and not hang on that stuff, because we'll just, it's not worth mentioning, the rest of. So yeah, I haven't had this issue before, so I don't know what else to do. We'll look it up. We'll try and figure it out. You might have to reinstall Media Encoder, which will only take a few minutes, so it won't be bad. But yeah, really good job on the hand-drawn animate ball. It's kind of like grungy because the thickness of that stroke changes while it's going down and up, but I'm like into that style, and I think it gives it a little bit of character. But overall, the ball maintains mass and volume, which looks really good. You did a good job on that one. As far as the Cinema 4D ball goes, this one, same. It's like dropping down, it's accelerating on the way down, decelerating on the way up. You have you're just missing some stretching, right? So it's got the squash happening there. You just want to add that stretch into there. That's the only thing you forgot on that one. So you just add the stretch in, and I think that'll be a lot better. And then you can update the colors as well, which I also did in last class when we talked about this, which lovely Belle, if you're in the chat, thank you for, she went through and bookmarked everything, so you guys can just hop in to that specific section and look it up. And then as far as the After Effects ball goes, first of all, we want to add some color to it because it's hard to differentiate from the background. I don't care if you guys have a white background. That's not a big deal. It looks better if you guys have a colored background with a consistent color palette. But, you know, I've seen a couple of your guys' so far have white backgrounds. Um, you know, as long as I can differentiate the balls from the background or whatever's in the foreground from the background. So you'll definitely have to add a color to here. We need to add some motion blur because even with not being able to see the color as much, I can see there's no motion blur happening. And the other thing is it's accelerating on the way down, decelerating on the way up, which looks really good. There's a little bit of a hitch in the animation at the top. So you're going to just want to make sure, like right up here, what you're going to see is when I play it, it's going to do a little jump. So you just want to make sure the first keyframe, where the ball's at the top of the bounce, right up here, and then the last keyframe where the ball comes back up are the same exact values. If they're not, you'll get that little hitch. So you just, all you got to do is go in and change the values of the keyframes so they match. And you can manually type them in. Just make sure you're selected on one keyframe at a time, because if you select all the keyframes, it's going to change all of them at once, and you'll have to undo that and then redo it. So just make sure that you're paying attention to that. And then the only other thing is that the ball, the squashing and stretching, you're going to want to re-watch that part because the ball's like changing in volume here. So the squashing and stretching, the amount of that you have on the ball is a little too extreme, especially because when the ball comes back up here, it's at 100, 100. So really only changing by like 15% to 20% is still looks appropriate. And just making sure that you're changing the X and the Y, like whatever you're adding to X, you deduct from Y, and so on and so forth. I had the motion blur function checked on, but I guess it didn't work. You have to make sure that when you check it on, you're checking it on to, oh, let me go down, all your compositions. So if you have it pre-composed into its own composition, you have to make sure you turn it on in each one, in each like iteration of a folder or pre-comp that it's in. So I had to make sure that when I did that, when I have it turned on in here, right? So I want to turn that back on here. And then when I put it into my main comp here, that I made sure, I'm sorry, I put it into this one first, the 3-ball pre-comp. So it goes from the separate one to having all 3 balls together to being in the main render, right? So that's kind of how the folder order. So I turned it on in my After Effects ball pre-comp, turned it on in the 3-ball pre-comp, and then also had to turn it on inside of my render here. So you just got to make sure that you go from one to the other, or else it's annoying that it does that. I know it really shouldn't do that. It should be something they fix, but it is the way it is currently. So we just have to make sure. It's just like a little detail you have to remember. And then just a floor, and then you're good to go. But really, really good start on here, Isaac. And appreciate the work you did on that hand-drawn one too. All right, let's see. Ortega, Parsons, Aaron. We still have like 10 to go. Let me see here. Or this is Sarah, not Aaron. Is this Sarah? No, Sarah, Parsons, Aaron, bouncing ball. This isn't an Aaron. This is a Sarah. Sarah. Okay. First of all, looks cool. We need a title. That's just what I'm noticing right away. But the color combination looks good across the board. Let's go ahead and real quick, let's look at this. 24 frames a second, doing good. Everyone did 24 frames a second from here on out. So I won't say that, but good job, you guys. Just make sure you're checking those renders before you do it. Let's play this and we'll look at the Adobe Animate ball. Yeah, looks really good. You did a really good job, again, keeping the volume. I would just do what I suggested earlier to kind of give this a little bit more of like a hand-drawn feel, is I would just add some like either a highlight to it or some motion lines, and I think it'll just kind of add that chef kiss on there to accentuate it even more. But you did a really good job, Sarah, on this, the one in Adobe Animate. Sarah and Aaron are the same person. Aaron, Sarah, same person. Cool. Thank you for letting me know that. That's exactly what I want you guys to do. So I will keep that in mind. Okay. Do you prefer one or the other? Do you prefer Aaron? Just let me know in the chat. And I will bank that into my brain. Let me write my note. Okay. After Effects ball looks really nice. You have the motion blur obviously happening. I like your floor because it's actually rounded out more, so the shape of your mask was a little bit different, but it looks really cool. I like that rounded shape. And then the acceleration and deceleration on the way down and then back up look really, really smooth. So you did a really good job on your curves. I can really tell that. And especially in your squashing and stretching. The timing of the squashing and stretching is really good as well on this. And so I wouldn't make any changes on this ball. I think it looks really bouncy. It's got a lot of character, and it looks really nice. And then same with even with the Cinema 4D ball, you have really nice squashing and stretching occurring here. Yeah, nice. Good job on that squash right there. And then especially when it hits the ground directly and then just builds that momentum to bring that ball back up. The only thing that I would really do here is, other than the Adobe Animate, right, like adding those drawing lines, you prefer Aaron. Cool. Thank you, Aaron. Preferred. Sweet. I shall keep putting that in you can keep putting Aaron on your file names too, and I will say that as well. It'll help me to remember. And I apologize ahead of time if I accidentally get that wrong, but I will work on correcting that if that's the case. Now, the only other thing I would say here is to kind of split these up a little bit so they give a little breathing room to each one. So just moving each pre-comp over a little bit to give that breathing room, because the 3D ball feels a little bit like it's on top of the After Effects ball, and this one doesn't feel super like it's on top of there, but they all feel a little bit congested in the middle. And so what you can do to mitigate that problem is to, down here, remember we have that title action save. If you just click that and turn that title action save on, you can kind of line these up. So you could take this one and move it over maybe in between these lines, or maybe on this line directly. That's probably what I would do here, is I would take this one and put it so the center of the ball is on this line. And then this one, so the center of the ball is close to this one, right? Because you don't want this to run off the screen. If maybe you have to scale this a little bit differently, but just make sure it's not getting cut off here. And then having this in the center like it is perfect, but just giving a little bit more breathing room on the sides. And it'll just look nice and spaced out and even. But really, really solid start on this, Aaron. Really good job. All right. You guys should all, let me just kind of say this too right away, is you guys should all get very used to working with your title action safe on. And like I said, it's the guides. Like, look, I can tell right away that Brenna's title is pretty much centered